All right, so wireless troubleshooting. So what do you do when your wireless is not working right? Well, first thing you do is turn it on. Is it actually on? So and then of course maybe it's not working right, so turn it off. That's a nice troubleshooting technique, right? Just turn that off. We'll see if it comes back on right. No, that's really something you need to do to check. Then of course it can be an incorrect configuration. And so if it's never worked or you went in and changed some settings, then you probably have an incorrect configuration. And that can get into a lot of stuff, right? So if you have your your wireless set to I'm only going to use 802.11a and your device isn't even compatible with it, that's going to be a problem, right? Or if you have it set to use a specific security, but you don't have that kind of security, then that's going to be a problem. Maybe you've got the wrong passphrase because it's case sensitive, that kind of thing. Then range. This is the point that I like to remind people of at this stage. The wireless antenna that's in your phone is not as good as the wireless antenna that's on that company's wall. Not even in your house, right? You don't have these massive big antennas poking out of your phone. And so remember that you have that two-way communication. You have the communication that's coming from your wireless access point, and then you have your communication that's going to your wireless access point. And you may be sitting out on the lawn with your computer, and it's like, oh yeah, there I am. I got great access. And then it tries to connect, and it tries to connect, and then it doesn't connect. It's the same with a cell network, right? You got this big tower with these massive antennas on it pushing that signal, and then you got this little tiny antenna in your phone trying to push it back. And so it's like, hey, I got 4 bars, and then you actually try to browse the web, and it's like, why isn't this working? So you got two-way communications, and range is often the problem. Something's in your way is obstructions, and that happens even with cell access. Things in the way. I gotta get out of this dip, come up on the hill, and then I can get a better connection. Same with 802 11 stuff. So 5 gig is going to go shorter distance, right? And then 2.4 is going to go longer. And you'll notice that in your house if you have two networks, like I have 5 gig and 2.4. If I'm a ways away from the 5 gig that I'm attached to because it's faster, I'll have to switch to 2.4 because it'll go, oh yeah, I got a great signal, and then as soon as I start to do stuff, it's like, oh, it's not working. So if you're outside the effective range, you're in trouble. If there's obstructions in the way, then you're in trouble. Spatiality diversity uses multiple antennas that are physically separated from each other. And then pattern diversity uses two or more co-located antennas with different radiation patterns. And that's usually very common. But the better routers, right, the wireless routers you get from home, um, those antennas will do that. They'll be like, okay, I'm going to set it to this and this and this so that I'm trying to give you the best coverage possible. All right, and then channel interference. And I talked about cordless phones at 900 megahertz, right? But some of them also use 2.4. This was like a marketing thing. I'm so glad that we just have cell phones now. But there's a big marketing thing. What do we do after 900 megahertz? Well, we got to get them to buy a new phone. So we're going to use 2.4. Voice doesn't need 2.4 kind of data. And the range is smaller. And so you get all these 2.4 phones and they just were terrible. And then they start doing 2.4 and 9. So they switch back and forth. And it was all just a big sales gimmick. But these phones, if they're running on 2.4, can cause you problems. Microwave ovens can cause you problems, right? Because they're on 2.4. As a matter of fact, I had my cell phone and I was heating something up in the microwave. And then I noticed that every time I was doing that and I was searching something on the internet, I couldn't pull anything up. I was like, okay, so from now on, I'm not standing next to the microwave because apparently it's bleeding out. So really what you want to look at here, channel interference, anything that's on the same channel is going to interfere. Now, for all this stuff that they list, really other APs in your area are the biggest problem, not all the other devices. Atmospheric conditions, electromagnetic interference can cause signal degradation. So yeah, the weather's probably not going to bother you in your house at all. But if you're pointing 2.4 antennas at each other and they're going 20 miles, then yeah, you can have some interference. And again, AP placement, they often will tell you don't put it on the floor, put it up a little ways. In any case, they're omnidirectional, meaning they go every directions. You can actually buy antennas that don't. And so if you have a good router in your house, you can actually take those antennas off, and then you can plug in other antennas and just push them a certain direction. You know, like if you got to go all the way across the house, you can have a line coming out from that and push it across the house. Anyway, so where it's placed can matter. If you're not getting a good connection to your house, then move it. And then the antenna orientation, which is what I was talking about, get a directional antenna and focus it into a certain area. And I've seen people do that they actually just, you have to do some research because you got these days like 6 antennas on the thing and you're like, which one do I do? If they're all doing the same thing, you can just take one. If they're not, then you have to do something else. And so then you can push it. And there's also, I should show you this is the cheap way of doing it. I usually ask people, ever heard of the cantana? I'm always spelling things wrong. You can actually buy a cantana, or you can get a Pringles can. That's where this came from. That's why this looks like a Pringles can. And you can make your own right there, 10 easy steps. And what you do is you put that over the antenna. So on your notebook, that doesn't work so well, does it? Because it's like, where is it? On your phone, it doesn't work so well either. But if you actually have an antenna that's off the back of your router, you can put a can around it. Or you could put tinfoil around it. And you can actually push the signal into a direction that you want it to go. And that's what this is. They actually just have a hole in the bottom, and you just put that on the antenna, and now you can push that signal a certain direction. So that's a cheap way to make a directional antenna. All right, so antenna orientation and then latency. That's how long it takes for communications to get back and forth. That really goes into your antennas and your transmission power. Again, you're getting a great signal coming to you, but yours is going back really slowly. So slowly that it might time out. Bandwidth saturation, that's when you've got people all around you. Right, you're in an apartment building, you're all using the same channels. That's known as bandwidth saturation. Device saturation means that you're actually just using so much of the AP, right? There's so many people connected to that access point that it's just saturated. There's too many in the airwaves. And then untested updates. As I said, I just set mine to automatically go these days, right? But you can get an update that'll screw stuff up. Frequency mismatch is when you said channel 4 and it's on 7. Absorption is when the signal passes through objects and they lose power or get weaker. Ever been near a big, it doesn't even really need to be big, but you get near somebody that's got a better radio than you, and I mean a seriously better radio, and all of a sudden you just lose all your radio frequencies. It's because it's not hitting you anymore. They're all hitting that antenna instead of you. And then refraction is when the radio waves pass through objects at different densities and cause the signal to bend or change speeds. And in other words, that's the stuff I was talking about, disruptions. That leafy tree now, water makes that radio frequency go through the leaf at a different rate, and it screws up that signal, and it just can't do what it's supposed to do. Those are all the technical terms for the stuff that I've been talking about. But that is network troubleshooting facts, and I don't think that, yeah, there's not another one in that one. So there is a lot of labs to do in these, and there is a lot of little videos, and so that's why this is spread out over a couple of weeks, because there is a lot of little tiny things to it, but there's also a lot to do within wireless networking. But this is the last of the big ones. This is the last one that we'll cover in full. So from here on, we're just going to cover a little bit more, and you'll be getting ready for the tests.